always do? Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah. This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Yes, here we go. Follow the money. Paulie and Dustin Sweetelson, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158, Downtown Circle, where it all goes down. Brian Mahoney live from the Garden coming up. Kick around who do you trust in the East, and also Nick Whalen with his props as we have two series that get underway in the association. Good to see you. Kay Adams calls him Swede. What's been going on? Been a long time, my man.
I got the Paulie Howard PTSD last night. Got the email, all caps, by the way. People don't know this. Paulie Howard only writes emails in all caps. And it was like I was producing the morning show all over again. It was 1 a.m. I wake up. Here's win, lose. Cold sweat, freaking out about how Paulie's going to yell at me when I come in because I deleted too many of his dog videos overnight.
Those were the days, my friend. Those were the days, getting up at 2 a.m. Absolutely. This is fun because you go back to all these game sevens and all these fantastic round one series, and now, bam, right into round two. And we got big news that we'll get to with Minnesota and San Antonio coming up. But, we could do this for the next 40 years. I don't think we'll see what transpired in a 48-hour stretch with the collapses and what happened. Mosley fired today. Orlando blows a 3-1 series lead. They could never figure out the offense. The Wagner injury was huge. But Friday night was an all-timer. To be outscored 55-19 in the second half, they shot 11%. Cade outscored them in the second half by themselves, 24-19. They went 45 minutes of actual real time between made baskets, made one shot in the fourth quarter, and that was coming off the heels of the Atlanta meltdown when they were down 62-19 in the second quarter of a home playoff game.
No, it's almost impossible. It's to shoot that many shots and to not have one land and just break it up. And this Magic team is so weird because at that point in the series, it was like, they're the ones that have all the options. If Detroit was the team that went 45 minutes, you understand, because it just means Cade Cunningham got cold. Instead, it's Orlando. And how about Jalen Suggs, the way he finished this series? 8 of his final 41 in over the last 4 games, 19.51%. The Orlando Magic have not won a playoff series since 2010 against the Atlanta Hawks. That was a Dwight Howard-led Orlando Magic team. This was a roller coaster of a ride because the Magic were the better team, it feels like, for most of the series.
Yep.
Detroit finds a way because they've got something different. They've got a fortitude. They've got a mentality. We saw it with them against the Knicks last year. Can they carry momentum to Cleveland? Because based on what I saw last night, I know the Cavs won. I do not trust that team, and I am someone who has 6-1 on them to win the East.
I'm with you. That was ridiculous. You had to go 7 to beat Toronto, who were down 2 starters.
No Ingram, no Quickly.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And then James Harden, big picture.
Yep.
Is there an athlete in all of sports that has been this great, but is this least clutch in big moments? Yep. I don't know if there is. I was trying to come up with names like A-Rod, but he eventually won one. Clayton Kershaw, he eventually did win one. I don't know how much he played a role in that. Is there anyone who the big picture of all the work is someone who is one of the greats of all time, but when it matters the most, they shrink the biggest?
Mitchell's never made it to the conference finals, and Detroit looks like they exercised the demons. But the other thing is what transpired with the tickets at cash, too. So going back the last 79 years, you had 13 teams that had rallied down 3-1.
Yep.
And then it happened twice in less than 24 hours. What happened? And the tickets that cashed on Philly, on Kalshi and Paulie Market, if you bet $100 on the Sixers after Game 4, it paid $10,000. They were 22-1 to come back and win at several sports books. They were 12-1 to be down 2+ games and win. They were 14-1 to never lead in the series and win. They had won 3 playoff games in Boston since 1983. Then they won 3 in a span of 12 days. And the Celtics give it away and choke again with their horrible offense and chucking threes. Incredible.
Well, it's also a tough day for the people who go, oh, everyone behind the counter, they know what's going to happen. They have the script. They understand it. Boston was plus $1.60, $1.70 to win the Eastern Conference coming into the playoffs.
I know.
Why was the assumption that Jason Tatum, who didn't play all season long, that leg was just going to hold up for the playoffs? That was a misprice from day one. I was never willing to believe in Boston because of that. And then we have to have a Missoula conversation. I know he's not going to get fired. I know he's not on the hot seat. He won a title.
Well, how about coach? He's going to get coach of the year. How awkward is that going to be?
And then, okay, tell me this. you don't adjust when things aren't going the way you planned in multiple games. Isn't that literally the definition of coaching, is making adjustments? Just doing the same thing you game plan for is not coaching. It's
amen,
being
brother.
stubborn.
Amen, brother. And then he panicked with the Game 7 lineup. That lineup hadn't been out there the whole season.
Right. My God.
But like, I'm not going to play the bench guys, and then all of a sudden I'm going to throw these guys in Game 7. And then Vucevic, trading Simons, he hasn't even played in a Game 7. But you're right, where it's, we're just going to get great looks, and the percentage of wide open looks is going to be in our favor, and that's going to carry. But they have to change how they play, and also their math equation with analytics, because this happens every series where they have two stinkers where they don't shoot. So that's 2 losses right there. Then you can actually get outplayed in a game. So you want to talk about math and wide open threes, and we're going to shoot 50 threes a game. You're dead last in shots at the rim, and you're dead last in trips to the free throw line. Change it.
And I don't want to hear about Jaylen Brown should have been an MVP. The guy can't dribble with his left hand. He can beat up on teams in the regular season. He had 33 points. He was not all that impressive. He turned the ball over. He didn't look like a superstar. It doesn't help when you don't have anyone around you and the defenses can key in on you, but that's a 76er squad. Those guys did not play together for most of this season.
Yes.
Embiid was never in the lineup. George was suspended, right? You've got Edgecombe, the rookie, just being like, hi, by the way, I'm the new guy on the team. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us this year.
Well, it's a discussion that nobody wants to have, and we'll stretch out and do it later in the show. But other than the NFL, the regular season doesn't matter in these sports.
And had Orlando beat Detroit in that series, it would have been the biggest indictment on the NBA regular season. There would be no point in ever trying ever again. If the 8 beat the 1, the NBA's lucky. The NBA is lucky Detroit showed up, because if Orlando did that, no one would try to be the 1 seed next year.
Yeah. Zach Lowe actually said this, that when they had all the guys together and they actually looked like a good team, it happened 6 times the whole year with Philly.
That's crazy.
Because, you're right, because George had the suspension, Embiid was hurt and hardly played, and other guys were in and out of the lineup. But the team that we saw close out Boston and win 3 in a row, I mean, that's a team that can beat the Knicks, and this is a team that could win. Someone's got to have it. Tomorrow we're doing pizzeria. Like, they were 250 to 1 to win the East when they were down 3 games to 1. This is incredible.
How do you gauge what they did to Boston, though? Is it Boston S the bed, or is it Philly stepped up and beat them? I think there's a little bit of both, but at the same time, why is there so much Philly love today? I'm hearing everyone's on the Sixers. You've got Joel Embiid, who's not in shape, who's dealing with a knee, who's off an appendectomy, and he's not 100%. He's got a 1-day turnaround in between these 2 games. Why is the assumption he's just going to be Embiid tonight against the Knicks?
Yeah, I think 7.5 is too much, though.
That's fair.
But there's a lot of love about them winning the series, though, too. But all good points about the short turnaround, and now we're going every other day. But the guy's been awesome.
Oh, he's been incredible.
And they have now they don't have depth, and the Knicks bench has been good. And can this Cat? That's the thing. Does that continue? Because they have their history calling each other out on IG, and you're soft, and you're a flop or whatever. But is the Cat with the point center now? Does this assist continue, and does this incredible run that the Knicks had to close out Atlanta carry over to this, and how the Garden's going to be a madhouse?
Yeah, we're going to find out early, because I think they're going to have to get Cat involved to build his confidence and make him feel good. But if Embiid takes his lunch early in this game, it could mess with his psyche and take him completely out of this. He played 16 minutes in one of the games against Philly this year when Embiid played, and Embiid forced him to foul out in 16 minutes. That's another stat that feels like it's almost impossible.
Well, in your corner, Maxey has torched him too.
Maxey,
you're going to put Bridges on Maxey, I guess, but Maxey has owned the Knicks.
Maxey is the guy you fear. If you're the Knicks, you fear that guy because he is an engine, he is a catalyst, he is energy. And let's be fair, Josh Hart was awesome last series in slowing down McCollum and limiting. Jalen Johnson never showed up for that series. That was the defense of Bridges and Hart and to Anunoby to some degree. I think there's a chance they may put Anunoby on Embiid. Let his athleticism take over. I know there's a size discrepancy there, but number 1, critical for the Knicks if they're winning this series and advancing. And by the way, I think their number is too short as well. The East is still wide open in my eyes. They have to slow down Maxey somehow, some way.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier we could do this in the next 40, 50 years. And how do you win a road playoff game and you have 9 shots on goal? How does that happen with Montreal? And then the batted puck goes off Vasilevsky and in. And they didn't even, in the second period, Montreal didn't have a shot on goal. They had 2 power plays. And then later that night, Colorado scores 9 goals.
What happened to home ice, by the way?
Oh, forget it. Doesn't mean anything.
It is
absolutely
so out the window. That series especially, right? It just feels like Tampa was winning in Montreal, Montreal winning to close it out on the road at Tampa, completely irrelevant. And then you have a complete opposite game later that night. I was on the air. I was doing Cashing Out last night, RIP. And that game was, every time I looked up, there was a goal. I'd try to focus on something else, and I'd look in the corner, and they're celebrating another goal. At one point, Minnesota had a 5-4 lead. I started getting spicy because I have a ticket on them I bet last week to win the West.
Oh, the in-play was insanity in that game.
And then Colorado reels off 4 more goals and win it 9-6.
Yeah. How high was the what would the in-play get for the goal? Did you see 14.5, 15.5 like in the third period?
13.5 I saw out there, I want to say.
Colorado got the 2 quick ones late. But
yeah, I think 13.5.
Yes.
And that thing just kept dancing back and forth, dancing. You had a brief moment of like 2 minutes where you could have gotten plus money on the Avalanche.
Yeah.
And then it disappeared.
At the end of the first period, the in-play total was 9.5. I mean, it gets there in the second period.
Pre-game total 5.5. We cashed it early in the second. That's insane.
Yeah, same sport. Yeah, I win a game. I don't have a shot on goal for a period, and 9 for the game, and another team goes out 9 goals. I know Montreal outplayed them for much of the series, but that's another one too. Yeah,
9 shots.
I know, and they win the game.
That's like going to the bar. You have 9 chances to ask a girl out. Are you going to win that night? I know I'm not.
That's incredible. We got big news coming up. This is nuts. How this series price and the game 1 price has shifted with the big news. We'll get to that coming up on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that almost feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit's due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. There's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on the annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, back to the show.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
9 days after badly hyperextending his left knee and suffering a bone bruise, Anthony Edwards is going to play tonight against San Antonio in Game 1. A couple days ago, the Timberwolves were 70-1 to win the West. They're 45-1 right now. FanDuel opens San Antonio minus 3,000. Take back on Minnesota anywhere from 11 to 13-1 without playing a minute. The price now is Minnesota plus 330. Spurs minus 425. That's at DraftKings. The Game 1 spread opened 14.5. It got to 8.5 here at Circa. It's back to 9.5 now. This is insanity.
We don't even know what he's going to look like. We don't know what percentage of himself he's going to be. And that's, oh, by the way, Dante DiVincenzo's still out. Io DeSumo is not playing tonight.
Yeah.
So you're going to ask this guy.
He's been ruled out?
I believe he was ruled out. I heard JVT
question.
say that earlier today. I believe he was ruled out. Let me confirm that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And now you've got Edwards coming back. He's going to be limited in some way. I'm sure he's going to try and carry the load, but you're asking a lot from a guy who's got a knee injury that was expected to return maybe in Game 3, Game 4.
Yeah.
Now to his credit, he had a 55-point game against these Spurs earlier this year. He had 32 in another, 23 in another. So he averaged 36.7. That was going to be a lot of production that they were going to have to make up Minnesota, and they just don't have the bodies to do that against a defense like the Spurs. I love the under tonight.
I'm with you. Good call. And DeSumo is out. Thank you for that. But this is where the odds makers assumed that he would be out for much of the series, or at least the first couple games, then it'd be 2-0 San Antonio. But it's also like Embiid and like Austin Reeves, though. Is there going to be rust? and maybe he doesn't play well, because you hit on it earlier about what does he look like. Now, what they did against Denver was incredible. Denver had the number one offense, and they held them to 108 points per 100 possessions in the series, which would have been 28th in the regular season. Denver can't guard you, but here you're not going to be able to attack the rim. But it goes back to the last series, though. What Rudy did on Joker was incredible. The friendship and looking up to him and a mentor with Rudy and Wemby. What does Rudy do against Wemby? But certainly an incredible supporting cast, though, that Wemby has here.
Yeah, Gobert against Jokic held him to 42% shooting when he was guarding him last series. McDaniels last series defending Murray held him to 34% shooting over the last 4 games of the series. How do you replicate that against this team? Because they've got Fox, they've got Castle, 2 pretty versatile guys in the backcourt. The Gobert piece is fascinating. That's what jumps out is how does he find a way to play the angles and limit Wembanyama? Because I don't know how anyone limits Wembanyama to this point in his career. If you look at the way these two teams match up, I think they both want it to be slower paced, especially with the Edwards injury. That's why the under makes all the sense in the world. But the spread right now sitting at 9.5. We were at 13.5 last night when I was doing cashing out. So that is a huge drop in the spread, which is probably a good thing if you want to back San Antonio right now. But I'm not getting there with that. Instead, how about this? Last night I put this up at vsin.com/picks. Randall under 31.5 PRA, and I love it. It's at 29.5 now that Edwards is back. Edwards going to have the ball in his hand a lot. I don't think Randall's going to be able to get going, and then he has the tough matchup with that front court and Wemby and all that length for San Antonio. I don't know if he gets going.
It is a different ball game now, what you're facing defensively. And, it's big getting Ant back, but good luck with Shannon and McDaniels getting those kind of looks, especially Shannon. How could he abuse Murray in that game 6 as well? How about Fox props? Like if we're going to see a lot about old man Conley, if Fox can go off and maybe hit a couple threes. I know Nick Whalen's high on him. We'll talk to him coming up. But they were awesome from 3 in the Portland series. I didn't like how they messed around at times, and they had bad numbers when Wemby wasn't on the floor, and he doesn't play a ton of minutes. But it goes back to, if you're going to get these wide open looks, do you knock them down? And they were fantastic against Portland in that first round.
Yeah, defense a little bit different, obviously, too, here coming up now.
Yeah.
Both teams had to make some crazy comebacks last series to wind up in this spot in the second round. I do like Fox. I went over 17.5 points. For a really good perimeter defense, Minnesota does struggle with point guards. They allowed the 8th most points, 2nd most rebounds to point guards. I just think Fox and that speed, that could be an issue here for Conley to keep up with if he can get downhill. So I really do like De'Aaron Fox. I'm with Whalen on that. I think that makes so much sense.
Okay, so the Knicks are now laying 7, and they're the favorites to win the East. The series price at DraftKings currently $270. Take back on Philly plus 220. Now, does this continue with Cat? As Embiid's done a number on him, and talking trash, and you mentioned fouling out. But moving him to point center and asking him more to be a facilitator. Again, this is a guy who has averaged 3 assists his whole career. And he had 26 in the last 3 games against Atlanta, including 2 triple-doubles. And it's up there at 35-1 today at DraftKings. The Knicks beat Atlanta by 16, 29, and 51 points to close out. I'm a little bit concerned about Philly coming back 3-1, and now you got the short turnaround as well, what you're talking about. But how do they hide Brunson? And Bridges do a good job and slow down Maxey. But can Philly get stops against this? And I know you're high on OG too, which I don't mind OG's PRA, as he was a beast against Atlanta. But again, Atlanta didn't have any size either.
No, but that's the question I have for Cat. Can that carry over into this series? Because it was just a great matchup for him. Okongwu did not have the ability or the size to match up with Karl Anthony Towns. It's a different situation here because you've got Embiid, you've got all of that he's done to Cat over the years, and then more importantly, just team defense for Philadelphia. A lot better than Atlanta was. So I'm not sure that's going to work, but I do think New York wants to do that. They want to funnel it through him. I kind of like Jalen Brunson under 6.5 assists. I threw that up there earlier last night because if they try to make Cat that facilitator, that might be a couple of assists that Brunson doesn't get. OG Anunoby, he's the key to the whole thing. He is the most reliable Knick night in and night out in these playoffs. You go back and look at elimination games last year. he always came through. Game ones last year, he was very good going over this PRA of 25.5, 2 out of 3. He hit this 2 out of 3 games against Philly in the regular season, and over in the Atlanta series, 5 out of 6. 25.5 PRA feels awfully low for a guy that I think is probably scoring 20 points tonight.
How about this Paul George turnaround? The suspension did wonders for him because he comes in fresh and rejuvenated, and how well he played that the break helped him out. And he's sitting there. He's $1.20 to score 15 points. And you go back, he did it 17 of the last 19 games, and he's been deadly from 3 as well.
Yep. 36 years old. Another short turnaround for this guy.
Yeah.
I know he's rested. I was on his under rebounds and assists in game 7. I kind of want to go back to that again just because I think those are effort stats, right? That's a lot of effort, especially the rebound department for a guy at his age.
He did it 3 threes. He played well, but only had 13 points. But
So I think if I'm going to attack anything with Paul George in this spot, I'm going to look at under in terms of rebounds or rebounds and assists combined, because even Dimes, like he had one game in that series with Boston where he had 7, but I don't really seeing him being involved in that aspect of their offense either, because he has to take on a big load defensively as well. He's still a very good defender. His defense was awesome against the Celtics. That's what he's there for. And then the occasional big shot, that's cherry on top, man.
Okay, very good. These are. Why are they going at the same time?
Wait, are they? I didn't even realize that.
What is this all about?
I didn't even realize that.
They've never done this in my lifetime. It's the second round. You got a 5 o'clock and a 6:30, and then tomorrow it's 4 and 5:30.
Is it because we don't have a true West Coast team going tonight? Is that why we don't have a team in the Pacific time zone?
No, they're only doing it these 2 nights.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I know.
That makes no sense. Why wouldn't you spread this out and guarantee you get maximum numbers for both of these games? It's idiotic.
I know. I
got to tell you, Adam Silver, maybe more than any commissioner, if we were power ranking all the major commissioners in sports, he might be below Manfred for me right now. And that's saying a lot because I think Manfred stinks.
Yeah, I know. It was said last week. If you can't explain something to me in an elevator ride, you've lost me. And this whole tanking thing, where they change it. Here's what their proposals are, and they can't. And now I'm more confused when you read this stuff.
Well, keep it simple. You can't be in the lottery 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
that's
right.
number one.
Yeah.
So you can't have generational long tanks to make sure that you have as many top picks as possible, and it forces you to actually try every other year. That's it. That's the solution.
Get to hockey later in the show as well. Carolina has won 15 of 17 against Philly. And Philly still hasn't scored a first-period goal in the entire playoffs. Carolina's the first team since 1986. First 5 playoff games, they haven't trailed. They're up to 260 now. Looking for an edge in baseball betting? Check out the VSiN Daily Diamond, sharp daily baseball betting insight all season long. Former pitcher Jensen Lewis and Dave Ross break it all down. Lines, totals, props, future. Subscribe to the VSiN Daily Diamond wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, search VSiN for the full podcast lineup. Everything from the NBA, college sports, horse racing, and more. VSiN is the sports betting network. You know anyone who had the super? You know anyone who had the winner?
I don't know anyone who had the winner. It was brutal.
I know.
I mean, poor Samich likes 2 horses. They both get ruled out. What are you going to do?
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, God.
Like
no one had the 22.
I didn't even hear that horse's name until they were calling it, making a move in the race.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Paulie Howard, Dustin Sweetelson, Mitch out. He's back Wednesday. We'll talk to Nick Whalen up next, who he likes for props. And in these playoffs, round 2, right around the corner, coming up on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stick and stay.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Developing situation in the Prem. Everton and Man City tied at 1 in the 70th minute. Oh, boy. Arsenal. This would be big for Arsenal to win the Prem as Man City now tied with 20 minutes left. Nick Whalen joins us now. Watch him every day. Prop Points, 1 p.m. Eastern. Does an excellent job. We're here to talk NBA and what he likes. First of all, let's start with the late game. It's a huge move. Now, Ant's going to play for Minnesota. And how about this news that he comes back and the series price and the line, everything's going crazy now with the San Antonio, Minnesota spread and series price.
Yeah, looking at the updated series price right now, guys, and good to be here with you. Minnesota now plus 330 to win the series at DraftKings. Spurs still a hefty favorite, minus 425, but a huge adjustment on the game one line, which I saw as high as 13.5 earlier this morning. Then it dipped to 11.5, and now we are down to 9.5. Now, I do think it's fair to question, what version of Anthony Edwards are we allegedly getting tonight? Because, we're like 24 hours removed from the report being that he was targeting game 3, which is not until Friday. And then we get a report this morning that, the training staff is iffy on him playing, but Edwards himself is pushing to play. It appears he's going to win that battle and be out there tonight. But, this is an injury that he's been dealing with, since the end of the regular season. He's been in and out. I feel like I trust Anthony Edwards more than I do the average player, the average star, to kind of know his body and be out there and be effective, more so than, for instance, what we saw from Austin Reeves when he came back and the final line looked okay, but he was 4 of 16 from the field. Embiid, even in his first game back in the Boston series, I thought got his numbers, but was kind of a net negative. So that's always the rub when you have an injured player, especially someone as important as Anthony Edwards coming back. So honestly, guys, I might be inclined to buy back in a little bit on the San Antonio Spurs at a reduced number. But as I told Dustin on his show last night, my favorite play for game one has to be the under. I just think when you go for facing this Denver team, that look, I still don't know what happened. Hopefully we get some sort of postmortem on why that team played like it did in round one. But a lot of those looks at the rim, Minnesota shot almost 70% in the restricted area against Denver in round one. Those just aren't going to be there against Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs did the Blazers to about 57% in the restricted area in round one, which is very, very good. Both of these teams were top 5 in the NBA in restricted area defense during the regular season. Minnesota was actually slightly better than San Antonio. So, we've seen a lot of these games, especially in round one, turn into rock fights. I don't know if this will quite be, game 4, game 5, whatever it was between Toronto and Cleveland, where both teams are struggling to shoot 35%. But I think Minnesota, especially with a less than 100% Anthony Edwards, I think it's going to be an uphill battle tonight offensively for the Wolves.
Yeah, what do you want to do with this total, Nick? It's moved since we talked last night. I bet the under 217.5. It's 220.5. Even with Edwards back, you still willing to play the under here?
I am.
Me too.
And look, I do think, Anthony Edwards would not be out there if he didn't feel like he could be effective. I'm sure he feels like he'll be a positive influence, but it's not a given to me. I mean, you feel better offensively, I guess, with Edwards out there, but I'm willing to see what he looks like first before I just assume that it's going to be a huge net positive for Minnesota. So yeah, I'm still willing to play the under, certainly at 3 points higher than it was last night.
How about your Fox props now?
Yeah, I think this is a big spot, a big series for De'Aaron Fox. There's so much focus on Victor Wembanyama, and rightfully so with the Spurs. But Fox had a couple big games, late in that Portland series was a big reason why they were able to close it out, and felt like he was picking up confidence as that season went along, or that series, I should say, went along. So I don't mind looking at the 3-pointers tonight for De'Aaron Fox. I don't mind looking at the points plus assists, the overall PRA. I think he's going to end up being a driving force for them throughout this series. Stephon Castle was kind of more like the PRA darling in the NBA prop world down the stretch in the regular season. And, we saw how Portland defended Stephon Castle in round one. There was not a lot of respect shown for that jump shot, kind of daring him to shoot, almost giving him the Rajon Rondo treatment from back in the day. But to me, I think this is more of a spot where the Spurs are going to need De'Aaron Fox to be that clear number 2 option.
Eastern Conference, we got game 1 tonight, Nick. Sixers and Knicks, Madison Square Garden, short turnaround for Philly. New York's been waiting for this. We know the Cat and Embiid situation, their history together. But you look at the market right now, New York's pretty heavily favored as the team to win the Eastern Conference. How many games do you think this series goes?
I'm happily playing the over 5.5 games, guys. I know the Knicks looked really, really good in those final 3 games against Atlanta, but lest we forget that like a week ago, we were wondering if this team was even going to make it out of round 1. They were down 2-1 to the Hawks. So I don't want to overly inflate the Knicks based on how the second half of that series went versus the first half. I do think New York is probably closer to the team that we saw in the final 3 games than those 2 ugly games, in games 2 and 3. But I still think we have to take the Sixers very seriously here. The big question, and I know we talked about this last night, Dustin, is just can Joel Embiid stay healthy? Can he play this entire series? It's been a long time since we've been in a spot like this. The Sixers are used to these Embiid injuries popping up, and all of a sudden their season ends either before the playoffs or in round 1. It's just going to be a continuing question. The longer this series goes, the longer the Sixers stay alive in the postseason. We saw what having a healthy Joel Embiid back in the lineup did against Boston late in that series. I think it can do the same against the Knicks. It's just a question of can Embiid stay on the court. You mentioned the Karl Anthony Towns matchup. I don't think he's actually going to see, a ton of Embiid on him defensively. I think the Sixers will likely throw some smaller defenders at him. Historically, that has worked well against Karl Anthony Towns, but can he carry over what we saw in that round one series, especially down the stretch against Atlanta? Karl Anthony Towns, the playmaker, I think almost matters more than the scoring.
Yes.
The Knicks guys are 31-10 straight up this season when Cat has at least 3 assists. I am a little bit worried about Cat getting in foul trouble on the defensive end if he is asked to chase around Joel Embiid. I think we'll see more 2-center lineups with Mitchell Robinson out there absorbing some of those fouls. But as we know, the last time these two teams played with Embiid on the court, Cat fouled out in 16 minutes. Knicks are 5-14 in games where Cat is in serious foul trouble with 5 or more fouls.
Great numbers. And a guy also who was phenomenal in that Atlanta series was OG. What do you want to do with OG props?
Yeah, so a couple ways I'm playing this game in the prop market. For one, I'm going to fade Karl Anthony Towns in game one. For better or for worse, maybe this will look really dumb like 4 hours from now, but I think the under 35.5 PRA for Towns. I have to have that on the card. I'm willing to keep buying in on OG Anunoby. It's not going to be as efficient as it was late in that series against Atlanta, but 3+3s tonight for Anunoby, plus 118 at DraftKings is something I put in earlier today. Sixers gave up over 22 wide open threes per game in round one. And I know Boston is a high volume team, but there were only a couple games in that series where we really saw the extreme volume from the Celtics. So I think that carries over. And then you have to look at Josh Hart tonight as well, guys. I think he's going to be the guy who gets Joel Embiid. And I hesitate to even say chasing him around. It's more going to be just kind of walking around while Josh Hart has his kind of looks. But does Josh Hart have the confidence to take and make those looks? We will find out at plus 135. I'm willing to take that chance tonight. 2+3s for Josh Hart.
Yeah, they may just dare him and leave him open at times. And then if he starts hitting them, then they'll start playing him a little bit tighter. How about the other Eastern Conference series we get going on Tuesday? Detroit laying 3.5 hosting Cleveland. I got to tell you, Nick, I'd love to make a strong case for believing in one of these teams. I really don't after what we just saw, but you do. Who do you like in this matchup?
Well, strong belief might be putting it a little bit too strongly, I guess. But I'm on the Cavs here, guys. I'm on the Cavs. I know it was a little bit uglier than we wanted it to be in round one against Toronto. I think the Raptors were actually a little bit underrated coming into that series when you looked at the series price for that versus Knicks Hawks. But I just don't know how you could bet Detroit right now with any level of confidence. I mean, you needed like this all-time series from Tobias Harris just to survive an Orlando Magic team that was down Franz Wagner late in that series. I still think Cleveland has a massive talent advantage in this series. I was a little surprised, that Detroit opened and is still holding as the series favorite, just based on kind of public perception with how those 2 first-round series went. The Pistons' reliance on Cade Cunningham, they were able to get away with it in round one against Orlando. I see that being a much bigger issue in round two. The Cavs have a really good rangy defender in Jalen Tyson, who they could throw at Cade Cunningham, had a lot of success in that individual matchup during the regular season. There's always going to be the Harden concern in the back of your mind. But the thing with the Pistons is like they need Cade Cunningham to have these monster games, and they probably need Tobias Harris to repeat what he did in round one to win this series. Whereas the Cavs could still survive when those Harden games pop up because they have Donovan Mitchell, they have Evan Mobley, and they have Jared Allen, who I'm hoping is as engaged in this series as he was in game 7 yesterday, 22-19 with 3 blocks. Cavs are 23-5, guys, when they get Jared Allen involved, when he scores at least 15 points, 19-5 when he has double-digit rebounds.
Good. Excellent numbers. And quickly, I love what you're doing tomorrow. The Lakers were swept by OKC in the regular season. Average score, 125-96. They couldn't score against Houston. What's going to happen against OKC?
I think much of the same, as what we saw during the regular season, guys. I just don't see the Lakers without Luka doing a whole lot offensively. I'm scared to actually play the game total because I'm worried about how many points OKC is going to score, but under 98.5 on the Lakers team total, guys. I know Houston's a good defensive team. They played this knockdown drag out series, but the Lakers turnover issues are really what I think could sink them early in this series. They had averaged more than 18 turnovers per game, by far the highest turnover rate of any team in the playoffs so far. And OKC forced the highest turnover rate. They have the lowest turnover rate of any team in the NBA during the regular season. It's just a really, really bad matchup for the Lakers. It's a bad matchup for everybody. Give me the under on the Lakers team total.
I'm with you. Thanks, Nick. Good luck. Strong appearance.
Thank you, guys.
Nick Whalen. Up next, win some, lose some. Crazy weekend. You won't believe some of these big tickets that cashed. And 2 horrific beats coming up. Follow the money.
Win Some, Lose Some is sponsored by the Sharp Plays.
Were you a winner last night?
Wow, winning.
Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Paulie Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
In the NBA, Raptors to win every game at home plus 650. We'll get to these props later in the show. It's phenomenal what cashed, and they're up for the second round as well. And you got the game leaders every game as well. Mobley 18-1 in game 6, most points. Walter most threes plus 450. Barrett 10-1. Most threes, Hachimura 10-1. He stuck it to me good. Reed Shepard was 1 of 10 in that game. Orlando was atrocious, all-time bad in game 6. The Hawks, the Rockets got a pass. No one's talking about them because the other 2 performances.
You're
you
right.
scored 78 points. Scott Foster's on the game. They were never in the game.
I forgot that game even happened.
Oh, God.
And because so much other chaos has ensued since Shepard, a complete no-show, they needed him for offense, and he did absolutely nothing. You're right.
Lakers were 5-1 to win the series, and they get it done. Game 7, Celtics Sixers, most 3, dead heat. Edge, Coleman, White 10-1.
White did nothing all series.
Yep. It
Till
was a
then.
big disappointment. But bad in the second half. Most assists, Pritchard plus 950. Sixers 22-1 to come back down 3 games to 1. $100 on Kelce, paid $10,000 after game 4. 14th team to rally, down 3-1. They had never won a series down 3-1. Boston never lost a series down 3-1. 12-1 to be down 2+ games and win. 14-1 to never lead in the series and win. Sunday, Pistons to win 2 games down or more. 12-1 to win after never leading the series. 10-1. And Nick is right. Where did that come from? Tobias Harris, 15-1. Most threes in the game. They needed him. And the meltdown in game 6. NHL, game 6, Montreal, Tampa, 0-0, regulation, 100-1. Game 7, under 3.5, 3-1. Montreal, 5-1 to win the game in regulation with 10 minutes left. And the fluke goal that wins it. All 7 games decided by a goal, 4 went to overtime. Fewest shots on goal in a win in history. Hurricanes, game 1 to win by shutout, 9-1. UFC, Steel by sub 6-1. Sutherland by decision 6-1 as well. Subscribe, be part of the team. VSiN.com, our radio and podcast friends. You always want to see these tweets and videos at Paulie Does Vegas on Instagram. Send them in, we'll put you on. Everyone says how mean these dogs are. Every video I see on Instagram is they look cuddly and great, these Rottweilers. But here, you be careful where you got your dinner. And he's trying to come over the shoulder. He's coming in and trying to get a piece of that chicken bake, probably Costco or wherever the gal was at. You got the head resting on the shoulder and just waiting to tear into that thing if you make a move. And that, hey, no, I love all that. Love
Well,
Rottweilers.
in fairness, when they smell food, that's when they are going to be their nicest.
Oh, yeah, sure. Look at that. That's phenomenal. And I think Luke sent this in. I'm afraid of heights. I could never do this. Stairs at Yosemite. Oh, my God. It's like a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible. Hanging on off. I'm freaking out already looking at it.
Yeah, you get that weird feeling in your toes looking at it. It's not the heights that freak me out. It's the width of my feet and then the imbalance of my body because my belly can easily topple me over the side quickly if I just lose my balance. It's not that we're that high. It's that I don't trust myself and my clumsiness to walk along that line.
That and like Mission Impossible 4, when they're at that tower in Abu Dhabi. Cruise climbed up the damn thing in real life.
I don't think I've seen a Mission Impossible since the 3rd one. How many have there been now? Like 7,
come on,
8?
Dustin. Phenomenal.
That's what
Dustin.
you seen one, you seen them all.
Shame on
He
you.
looks like he's gonna die, then he doesn't die, and he saves the world. It's like Fast and the Furious. It just got out of hand.
No way. Oh, damn you. Lose some. I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. How about what happened in Boston? You know, Vrabel's got the Rossini thing going on. The Red Sox fire Cora. They're a mess. Boston blows a 3-1 lead. The Bruins have lost 6 straight home games in the playoffs. They'd get taken out by Buffalo. The Lightning have lost in the first round 4 years in a row. The Celtics had lost 3 playoff games at home to the Sixers since 1983. They lost 3 times in 12 days. Come on.
The difference between the Bruins, though, and what happened with Vrabel is the Bruins players now have to spend the offseason with their families, and Vrabel lost his family with the scandal.
Rossini, did you name your kid after the guy you're having the affair with?
Or name it after the true father of the child.
Yes. Raptors have lost 11 in a row in Cleveland in the playoffs. And I don't know what this was all about. Was there an integrity alert sent? UFC Elliott 4-1 down to plus 150, but he lost by decision. And a couple bad beats. Magic Friday night, game 6, led by 24 in the second half. 4th largest halftime comeback in playoff history. 3rd largest comeback or blown lead in an elimination game. 19 second half points, made 1 shot in the 4th quarter. In Tampa in game 7, lost 2-3. They lost 2-1. And Montreal only has 9 shots, and they don't have a shot on goal in the entire second period. Somehow Tampa loses that game.
I remember the announcers, when the Magic were missing all those shots, they said, it's been 17 in a row for them. And I said, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, 24 in a row.
And they missed 6 more, whatever
Was it 23?
23.
23 shots in a row.
23 in a row. I've never seen anything like that.
No.
So previously, 2001, the Kings missed 22 in a row on May 2nd.
Yep.
2021, the Jazz had 20 straight misses on June 8th. They were 1 for 20 from the field in the 4th quarter, 0 for 10 from 3. How about this, guys? Get a foul, get an easy bucket, stop hoisting them up from the outside.
I'm talking to Missoula. Sports calendar never stops. Sharp Plays covers it all. Documented, logs posted publicly, sharpplays.com. Mr. Poison tweets every day. When they move, books take notice. Trusted insider intel. They find the value before the numbers shift. Respected, watch, feared. Start winning with them. Sharpplays.com. All right, rankings. This is the great playoffs. The East is fantastic. It looked like the Knicks might be the best seed remaining. It looked like Toronto was going to win and Orlando was going to win. How do you rank your level of trust in the 4 teams in the East? This is tough.
Well, the problem is the Knicks are now your number 1, and the Knicks are a team that I went back and forth all season long on, Paul. I bet them 15-1 early in the year to win it all. And that was because I thought they were trading for Giannis. And then as you watch this team play, it's one of 2 things. You have to be in one of 2 schools of thought. One, they didn't care about the regular season. Everything for them, they're going to be judged in the playoffs because when you fire Thibodeau, when you bring in Mike Brown, his only objective is to get them a step further, get to the finals or it's a failure. But at the same time, this team was soft in the regular season. Yeah. They were very soft. They did not show mettle. They did not live up to the better teams that they played up against. They always dropped down in talent. And I have a lot of hard time trusting them. The problem is, who are your other options? Because Detroit doesn't have secondary scoring. 35-year-old Tobias Harris isn't going to go off again. Cleveland has James Harden breathing air on God's green earth. And I tell you, I can't find a less clutch Hall of Famer in any sport than what James Harden has become. And then Philly, you're now going to have to convince yourself into Joel Embiid not just staying healthy, but winning when it matters.
Yep. Never made the conference finals. They haven't been there since the Eric Snow team with Iverson.
Which was like barely like that. The Eastern Conference is such a joke every year.
So I would go Knicks 1.
By default, I agree.
By default. Then I'd still have to go Sixers 2.
I think it's Philly too.
Yeah. And I have the Cavs last because you can't count on Harden. They were so bad even though they beat Toronto. Toronto down 2 starters. And Donovan Mitchell's never made it past the second round.
No, we have to have bigger. Donovan Mitchell is like in that tier below the real superstars in the league. He might be dropping down because when it matters, we're not seeing that guy show up. He was horrible against Toronto. And then he can't trust Harden. So I think Detroit, just because I'll give them credit for coming back down 3-1, backs against the wall, and I'll give them credit for a year ago, they probably should have beat the Knicks in that postseason series. A couple calls went against them that should have been in their favor. So I think they're built a little bit differently mentally. And in this series against Cleveland, if they can make it lower possession, they can make it lower scoring and just slow down Harden a bit, I think they absolutely can win this series.
Sixers still 7-1 to win the East.
Were you surprised Detroit was a favorite, though, in the series over Cleveland, just because the Cavs have so many more options?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I mean, the bench...
I mean, you also, they don't win the series if Wagner doesn't get hurt either. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. It's over. They're up 24 in the third quarter to close them out. It's over. And for them to get outscored 55-19. It was like the game 6 with the Knicks. It's like, am I hallucinating? Is that the score?
Yeah, no,
they haven't made a shot in 45 minutes? What's going on?
What is this, 60-point lead at one point for the Knicks?
Yeah.
That's something. We saw a lot of things I've never seen before on a basketball court, and they all happened in the opening round of the playoffs.
They did. Yeah, they did. No doubt. But it's hard. And Knicks, Pistons would be awesome. Knicks, Cavs still is strong, but there's going to be a great story no matter what. Because the Knicks haven't made the finals since 99. Detroit, you got to go back a long ways.
Cavs, Pistons.
Yeah, Cavs with LeBron. And then we've outlined all the issues with the Sixers, too, how long it's been.
And all this is a waste because it's your last chance to get a good price on Oklahoma City to win the whole thing at minus 155.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a great prop regarding them, too, at DraftKings we'll get to in about an hour. Real or Fugazi up next, and it's a discussion nobody wants to have, but we have to get into it coming up on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158 from Circa.